Hey everyone, this is smpratte, and today we're going to do a 25th anniversary recap video. I'm recording this on the end of Pokemon Day. It's been a long one. We had digital Post Malone, we had Logan Paul round 2, we just had some record sales of PWCC. I did a 3 to 4 hour voice on Discord for those PWCC auctions, and now it's time to do a video on all of that. I think a good starting point is actually when I started doing videos about 4 or 5 years ago. I remember someone posted Rarity Alpha Investments on E4, and they're like, "Hey Scott, you ever think about doing this?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I can talk to a camera. I can handle that." Back then, you didn't really have discussion videos. You had a lot of the hand, 1,000 pack opening things going on. You didn't have PWCC doing thousands of cards, DA Card World, a staple in the hobby. A lot of these big players just simply weren't there yet in Pokemon. I also remember selling a PSA 9 Illustrator for $55,000. I'm sure for a lot of people who've been around for a while, they remember that auction because it was a record sale at the time. In fact, it rustled a lot of jimmies. There were a lot of people who didn't want to accept that a Pokemon card could be worth $55,000. Fast forward to today, we just watched a PSA 7 Illustrator, not a PSA 9, PSA 7. We're talking practice. PSA 7 Illustrator go for $375,000. And what's funny about that is a lot of people thought it was low. That's not good enough. This is 2021. Like, everything's got to be going up nonstop. That is a record sale for the card, especially in that grade. And I think it just summarizes where the hobby is and where the hobby will probably be in the short term. There's so much happening. Today in Pokemon Day was a microcosm of just the hobby at large. There's so much going on right now, you can't keep up with it. There's a record sale every week, every minute, every second. You know, my computer had so many tabs open it should be an incognito. Like, I had Logan Paul going, I had Merps doing PWCC stream, I had all the eBay tabs on, I had Discord open, and that's one day. Like, that's one day, not even. That's like 5 hours in the hobby. There's so much going on all the time. There's so many people in the game today. You know, even from 5 years ago, 20th anniversary was a hot moment for Pokemon. Pokemon Go was a big thing that brought a lot of people in. Evolutions brought a lot of people in. And today, almost every day is like Evolutions. Almost every week is like Pokemon Go. Because there's so much going on. Those same people who are still here now, talking to you from a grandma basement, you know, they make a little bit more money than they did 5 years ago. And if you kept the same exact people, that consumer income is definitely higher on average. That discretionary income is also higher. So you have the quantity and the volume and the quality, everything has increased. And I think those record sales of PWCC really are just data points for that increase. That's all it is at the end of the day. You know, that PSA 7 Illustrator is a record sale. $375,000 for a PSA 7 Illustrator. That's literally the first PSA 7 ever sold. Like, in the history of man, ever. Like, that's it, right there. That one data point. So, you know, when people think it's low, people think it's high, it's like, well, it's the only one ever. So, you know, you can do a half full, half empty glass all you want. But it's 7 times greater than my PSA 9 sold for 5 years ago. And I think that's the big picture here. You know, every time you have one of these Pokemon days, or especially a 25th, 20th anniversary, or 30th anniversary, and so on, I think naturally it's a time to reflect. You know, it's a time to look at where the hobby is, what's going on. You know, going back to the Post Malone thing, I didn't really know what to expect. I saw the digital Post Malone. I'm like, okay, like, it feels all right. A little cringy, but also clever. It's not too bad. And then overall, I thought it was nice. I thought it achieved what it was supposed to. I don't think it's geared towards people in their early 30s, late 20s. I'm going to go out on a limb and say it might be for the kids. Maybe. I'm just going to guess that it might be for that target audience. And I think for that target audience, it's doing what it needs to do. In fact, an idea I had is, like, for a lot of kids, one of the really cool things I saw, I think it was one of the longtime E4 members said, yeah, my kid liked to name all the Pokemon that come on the screen. That's it right there. You know, that's what it's all about. And it's really good to see that. You know, it doesn't need to please all the adults, all those super serious collectors in their grandma house. You know, it's really about hitting that target demographic, because when I was watching that Post Malone thing, I'm like, there's going to be kids who are going to, like, look back on this and be like, man, remember that Post Malone thing? And they're going to look it up like 10 or 15 years from now and be like, whoa, look at this technology. Like, look at how crazy this is. That's what they're going to do, because that's what we're doing. You know, when we look up our base set Diglett or something, or like Voltorb with that like 90s CGI, or Clefairy doll, or the Scoop up with the one-eyed Weedle, you won't unsee it now. The Gust of Wind, he has like one eye is white, one eye isn't. You won't unsee it. that's what we look at. That's what the 90s kids look at. So I think that's what you're going to see with the whole Post Malone thing. It's just another organic interest type deal where they're putting this out there. I thought it was a good collaboration. I thought it was a clever idea, especially with everything that's going on in the world right now. I thought it was a win-win, net positive. I think Pokemon is always very good at those type of PR, whatever you want to call it. Overall, I thought it was really nice. The Logan Paul thing was also great. You have another net positive at the end of the day. You have someone who has more reach than every Pokemon YouTuber combined. Like, we could all do the fusion dance, whip our arms around. We're never going to be as large as Logan Paul. Like, that guy reaches the world. Like, genuinely, he does. I remember last time he did his opening, he had it was the #1 spot on YouTube. I think the new iPhone came out, which iPhone is like one of the most selling phones ever. And Logan Paul was above all of that. So, it's going to have, I think, some type of reaction. Everyone's like pontificating, like, what's going to go up from Logan Paul this time? I don't think it's going to be a 1-to-1 binary. I'm sure it'll bring in some new interest. I'm sure it'll again, that organic traffic, it's going to bring in people. But at the end of the day, again, it's just a nice net positive for the hobby. His openings to me are like some of the best out there. And no offense to all the people on the grind, like PokeRev, Leon Hart, all these guys who are hustling nonstop, like those dudes. You can't say enough about them. Rusty, let's do a round 2 shout out. Rusty, PokeRev, Leon Hart, Unlisted Leaf, like all these dudes hustle all the time. But Logan Paul has that stuff to a T. Like, it's just fun to see first edition base. Like, maybe that's another part of it, is like first edition base is like the set to open. It's so dynamic. Like, even if you get a non-holo, you could still get, like, I remember one of the packs of like Bulbasaur, Pikachu, Squirtle. Like, you're already good right there. Like, during the video, I had someone buy a PSA 10 Pikachu for $7,500. So it's like you can hit just the commons in 10 and you're still solid. So I think that's why that opening works so well. That formula is so great. You have someone who has like top reach also with like the top box. It's so dynamic. Every one of these cards has something going on. Every one of them has a price point. And, I think that's just a net positive for me at the end of the day. Now, getting back into PWCC, I know a lot of people want to do like the analysis of the sales, going back like to the Illustrator. Some people thought it was low. Some people thought it was high. They want to know what I think. I'm going to be very, very candid in Patreon. I'm going to talk to the owner, or I guess the seller. They're in Patreon. And, I'll probably be much more candid in there. But what I'll say publicly is that, again, it's a record sale. It's the only data point for a PSA 7 copy. I personally didn't really like the bid thing on PWCC. I get why they're doing it because they're going through eBay, and eBay is more limited for higher end. If perfect world, you could get the combo of like eBay, someone like me, or someone who really understands, the card, who can bring it to life, with a place like Heritage that does the hammer auction, that takes it to the floor. That would have been the perfect storm. But I think each one of those lacks something, right? Like, I lack obviously the level and whatever the volume that all these guys do. I think, no offense, I love all these guys, have a good relationship with all these guys, but Heritage doesn't have the same, ear to the ground like PWCC. So like, if you had all three of them, if all three of them did the fusion dance, I think you would have had a better result. But again, at the end of the day, it's a record sale, and again, it's the only data point for PSA 7. Now, some other cards that happened. Yes, there was other cards that sold with PWCC. English #2 trainer, 110,000. Like, that thing has been a sleeper card for a long time. I've got to pause for our sponsor. Hashtag Patreon jokes. That $110,000 Pikachu trainer is something that I expected to happen eventually. I didn't know when. A lot of people don't realize how rare those cards are. I think there was a scenario where you had artificial availability. And what I mean by that is typically at Worlds, when somebody would win, because they don't really know much about the card market, they just be like, oh, I'll take this price, or oh, I'll throw this up. And, the typical never-ending, we're talking about all this noise and everyone engaged, that never-ending talk, the never-ending grapevine in Pokemon, people would be like, oh, it's only worth 10K, it's only worth 20K. And that's because these were artificial prices. The demand was much greater. It's just that now you see that because you had a pause on Worlds. So you don't have those winners who really don't know much about the card market, just dumping it because they don't care. Like, they just want the cash, they're good. But that isn't really the objective, like, final market value for what the card can earn. So now, because it's weird, because of that delay, you saw the market kind of correct itself. in real time, where you haven't had a lot of those English trophies go for a long time in auction. This is the first one graded in I don't know how long. So to me, it's not surprising. Like I said, I expect it to happen at some point. I think that perfect storm of like not having worlds and not having like literal kids win a card and be like, oh my God, $10,000 is so much money. Sure, I'll sell it for that. And that person already ripped it and flipped it to someone else. So yeah, I think that's the combo there for, a lot of people want to know why. I think that's the best analysis you can do, really. But you had some other cards like Unicarp, I think was like 60, high 60s or something like that. Tropical Wind was about 50K, I think PSA 9. To me, those really aren't too crazy. I don't really think those are too crazy for right now. You had a couple other big hitters. I know some people were frustrated. They missed a couple cards. I don't know if they want me to mention it, but we'll do a full deep dive into Patreon. But yeah, that's pretty much the analysis. I think at the end of the day, if you had to take a big takeaway from that PWCC auction block is rarity awareness. I think that's really the thesis for that auction block. Because what were the big ticket cards? It wasn't Charizard. It wasn't even first edition base. It was that English Pika, the Illustrator. That was it. Like those were the top dogs. And neither one of those come in a pack. And I think that's the real big takeaway there, is that there's going to be more awareness of rarity. I see it a lot. I talk about this very candidly in Patreon. When I do my calls, my consultations, like every day with people, I do a lot of one-time calls with guys, and they'll come to me, and the stuff they know in like a month to 6 months would take like people back in the day. Like when I bought this back in like 06, 07, back then it would take you like a year to like 3 years to get that information that people get in a few months now. That information is so available. So many people are talking into cameras now that you can learn so much. And therefore, I think that rarity awareness is on the come up. Like, I think that's something that is going to be a lesson, like a macro lesson from that auction block. Because, again, the big hitters were those cards, the really rare cards. And it makes sense. Like, rarity is something that is, you can't optimize it. It's inherently going to be difficult to acquire. So there you go. I think that's going to be the takeaway. And again, like I can't emphasize enough, I've talked about this so much on Patreon with people. The average person today knows so much more wholesale. Like it would take years to dig up all this documentation, all this information. We'll see a new trophy card come up from Japan, and within like a day or two, we got it all covered. We know how many are out there, who's selling it, who's buying it, who bought it. Like we know everything now. It happens so quickly. So I think that's the key thing here, tying it back in, this whole like 25th anniversary reflection idea. That's where the hobby is right now, and I think that's where it's going to be for the foreseeable future. You could always look at the criticism I say this all the time. I said it 5 years ago, I'll say it again. Anytime there's growth, the shadow grows as well. Physically, you make a bigger building, naturally the shadow's going to be bigger. So when you have growth in the market, sure, there's going to be unfavorable things in the name of scalpers, bot, whatever, flippers, all that stuff. Of course, like there's definitely going to be stuff like that for sure. But at the end of the day, the hobby's at a place that no one anticipated this quickly. It's surreal that I see like Katy Perry's name show up on the screen with Pokemon. I'm like what timeline am I in? Like, I'm not complaining. Like Katy Perry can be with Pokemon. That's more than fine. No one's complaining. But it's just we got to basically at the end of the day, like, really value where Pokemon is, really trying to get that like net positive out there, in the face of like a lot of the frustration of scalping, flipping, botting, all that stuff. We got to remember this hobby is younger than a lot of other hobbies and does much better. It's outpaced a lot of older hobbies at this point. There's a lot of companies, brands, people, everything that would kill to have what Pokemon does. So anyway, just trying to end on a positive note because 25th anniversary was a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun myself. Again, going over everything, Logan Paul, Post Malone, PWCC. We got a lot of good things going on right now. Yeah, it's a lot of work. I'm sleeping less, making a lot more money, but sleeping a lot less. But that's the current state. There's so much going on. I think I've said enough. I think I've said the same thing like 10 times now. So we'll wrap it up. But there you go. That's what I have, guys, for 25th anniversary. Happy Pokemon Day. It's been a lot of fun. Actually, I'm probably going to do a Q&A after this. I'll make a video asking for questions. Of course, I do it every month in Patreon, but I'll do a public one because I hit 25K right for 25th anniversary. Yeah, Q X-Files themes. But yeah, I'll be doing that probably next week somewhere in there. But there you go. You know the deal. Let me know how I feel. It's pretty much it, guys. Again, happy Pokemon Day. Glad we're still here 25 years later. Until next time.